Sorry. Just trying to figure something out. Anyway, I am doing Luffy from One Piece, otherwise known as Monkey D. Luffy. I'm going to change the height to 252 instead of 260. And I've already put the image into here. So I'm just changing the height and hitting convert. And okay. This is interesting. Definitely an interesting conversion. Let's just hop right into it then. Put that down to 1 and just start doing what I've done in almost every editing stream mode. My god, this is a lot of 2s. That is like 9 2s right there. My god. Let's just do this. Do I want to do that inner line here? You know what? Let's go ahead and do it. Come up here. I think just making sure that connected. Didn't look like it did to me for a second. It's really, I guess what I could do is kind of explain what I'm doing, which I've done twice already. If you want to go check out my YouTube page for Mikasa and Levi, when I edited them, which is just Pixel DiCaprio, same as my Twitch handle. Let's just do this. This is going to be a lot of repetitiveness here. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of just tracing the most outer outline. With this black block. I think is this his hair? Is his hair blonde? Oh no, this is his hat. His hair is black. Okay. This is his hat. His hair is underneath his hat. Okay. My screen froze there. Just going to, as you can see here, I don't know if there is really much explaining to do because you can see what I'm doing, but then again, I've also already explained this twice, so I'm gonna try to continue again. You want to make sure you get every block or every outline block. One Piece is a very long anime, and it's still ongoing. That is the one block I'm going to leave out because I don't like it when my pixel arts do that with the outlines. At least with the main outlines. So I try to avoid doing that kind of not R shape. What do you call that shape? And over here, as you can see, there's this whole line of just yellow. Like, you do not put that in with black, or I do not. Just zoom in a little bit, and we're going to continue on from here. Continue. I was going to have a friend hop on a party with me through Discord, but he couldn't. Didn't really. It's not that he didn't feel like it, it's that he wasn't up to it. So it's just me again. And as you go, if you get to pieces like that, you should erase it as you go, which is this thing here, which just looks like a block but has a slash through it. That's basically your erase tool through Netlify. Netlify is the editor I use. And real quick, I'm gonna show you how to get there. So you do www, or actually you don't need to do the www. You do Minecraft art.netlify.com. And then you hit enter, and it takes you to this page. And I already have it bookmarked up here between Trello and Wattpad. But this is one of the few editors I have. Actually, that does not require downloading. I do have Photoshop as well, but I prefer using Netlify because it's free and you don't have to download anything. So once this page, just kind of go to editor and then you choose your image. I guess what you guys are seeing on stream is different from what I'm seeing on my own laptop. But I'm just gonna close this page and get back to editing Luffy. And that's how you get to Netlify. That's, yeah, if you want to use Netlify. You can use any editor you want. I prefer Netlify because there's no downloading required. It's completely free. And saves time. I wouldn't say it saves time. But a lot of people I know also use Netlify. I'm going to erase that block up there before I forget about it. And I also like to remove the background. Like I've done with Luffy, I've already removed the background. And I will show you how I do that in a second. As soon as I finish this outline here, I will show you what I use to get rid of the background. So it's actually pretty easy. So with Netlify and removing backgrounds, you do need to make sure it is a JPEG or PNG image or it does not work. Because if it's not, it will not work. Will not edit anything. Well, it doesn't edit anything, it just kind of Well, I guess it does, because converting it and getting rid of the background is editing it, so that isn't there anymore. But do make sure it is a PNG or JPEG image. I don't know how you change it. I think you can just rename it to be a PNG, JPEG. And here we are. We've got the basic outline done. As you can see, if you zoom out a little bit, you can see that there's a black outline. You can see that there's an outline. So yeah, we are going to come over here to, I don't know how to describe this area, but it's just like, we're going to work on inner details. Next. And I did have another image of Luffy which contains a bit more of his body, but I decided not to go with that one because it would take a bit more time. This is coming through the inner details now. We're just going to do want to make sure you get inner details. Good. I think that's alright for inner detail. And since we're here, we might as well work on his neck slash. Okay. So you do want to zoom out every now and again to see how it's looking. So this is his neck combined with like his chest because he has an open jacket on. So zooming out is important because that way you can see what it is you worked on, what it is you did. And if it doesn't look good, you can always change it. Let's see. Okay, there is a line over here. And here, I do not like to double it up like this, so you might have to make a little sacrifice. And figure out what areas need to be what. So there I just got rid of, I used the sand blocks to kind of erase the parts I don't need. And now, I guess what we could do is we could either start like coloring in, or like not coloring in, it's already colored in, like smoothing it out to be not this mismatch of blocks. That's actually what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to the bucket tool, which is right up here, and just fill in a lot of this. And now I'm going to go back to the pencil tool and kind of like go over any excess blocks. And I'm gonna say this now. The block you use, like his jacket is red, so you should use a red block to fill it in. Or not fill it in. Why do I keep saying fill it in? You're not exactly filling it in as much as you are replacing all these blocks here and replacing it all with one solid color. Kind of just making it a lot. The editing is, when you edit, you are editing it down so it looks like something you'd find. It looks nicer this way. Because, like, yeah, if I come over here, yeah, you can see the hat. It kind of looks weird. His face is like a whole bunch of things. It's not smooth. You're basically smoothing out the build. So it looks a bit nicer. I'm going to do the other side. Or the other side of his jacket. We're going to... I am using the red concrete. So if you like to prefer smoother texture blocks like concrete or sometimes even terracotta, so I've learned that to make, well, it's not that I've learned, it's that with experience I've figured out that I prefer concrete over wool. If you're also that person, you can test out various things to see what kind of blocks you like in your pixel arts. Everyone's different. For me, I do not like the texture of wool. I just do not like it. So I try not to use it in my builds. I also find them to be way too similar to that of the concrete variant. So if I put the wool and concrete next to each other and zoom out, they look almost identical to me from a far distance. And I do not like when blocks look almost the same at a distance. That just seems pointless to me. But with like 1.12, we also got the concrete powder, which has a slightly different tinge to it than that of wool, which is why I prefer using concrete powder over wool when it comes to having multiple shades of one block. So let's say we go up to his hat. Here you can see that there's like a bit of an orange and like yellow orange, or even I'm trying to find a good example of something that has multiple. What I'm gonna see here is I'm gonna go to a new tab and let's just pick Bulma from Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball General and hit search and then go to images. Trying to find a good image of her. You can see that she has like multiple shades of blue in her hair. Like so many different shades. And when that happens, you have to use multiple different blocks to get that shading. So you might use blue concrete for the darkest part. In my case, in my Bulma that I made a while ago, I used prismarine to get the darkest part of her hair. And then I used blue terracotta for the highlight in her hair. I'm going to show you real quick what I'm talking about. So I'm going to choose file. I'm going to open up my Bulma. Let's open up the JPEG, the original image I used. You guys cannot see what I was talking about, but if I just open up the image I used. As you can see, she has like 3-4 different shades of blue in her hair, and that includes the highlight. And if I convert this like this, you can see the darkest part of her hair is actually prismarine. It's a dark prismarine. That's what I used in the original. So I'm gonna open a schematic. Fortunately, Twitch doesn't when I go to open up things. So as you can see, I used like 4 different blue colors, including ice. I used dark prismarine for the darkest part. If the colors were more close together, I would have used cyan powder to do this part versus the light blue. That's what I'm saying. If that was a more smoother tone. But anyway, we're gonna go back to Luffy. So I'm gonna close Bulma and come back to editing her. Not her. Editing Luffy. So we're gonna come back up to the hat. And I'm going to try to make an outline, because there's a bit of outline separating this red in his hat versus the yellow in his hat. So I'm going to try to get that smooth, nice outline. So you do want a bit of a smooth outline. You don't want a very, by smooth I mean you don't want a jagged outline. You don't want to go zigzaggy. You don't want to do a small and then a massively large. This time it's okay because it's like the middle of his hat right there. But you don't want to, like here it's alright because the outline's meant to be jagged like in this specific area. But by smooth outline I mean kind of want to gradually grow. You don't want to do 4 and then 500. Not 500, but if you do 4, you don't want to make it super, super jagged. You don't want to go over areas that aren't meant to be changed. I really don't know how to explain it by a smooth outline, but you don't want it to be 1 and then going to 15. That doesn't make sense. Kind of want it to go like if you do a single diagonal, and then you do you want to do, if you do a single like here, you don't want to go, you want to do like a 2 and then maybe a 5 and gradually make the lines bigger, but don't go 1 and immediately into a 10 going across, or a 15 or any of that. See here, I'm gradually coming. I didn't go boom boom all the way over to there because that just wouldn't look great. That kind of makes it look weird in the end. And once you have a line there, it's really hard. Not really hard to get rid of. I was going to say it's really hard to get rid of, but it's actually not that hard to get rid of that line. But it's much easier to just not have that happen. Now we got the separation in the hat. The outline separates the red from everything else. So when it comes to choosing what block I use to, why did I use concrete to replace that area instead of maybe using, I don't know, the glazed terracotta, the the little swirl blocks. I've already explained this before. I personally prefer much smoother blocks, and glazed terracotta is not a particularly. It's a nice block. They are very nice blocks, but they aren't. It's not that they aren't nice. They just don't work in a pixel art setting because they're textured. Not that they're textured. I mean, let's look at the hat, for example. It kind of makes it look much brighter than it's actually supposed to be. And I prefer concrete because it's a smooth. It's like the smoothest block in all of Minecraft. So I like my pixel art to be smooth. And the only exception I do that is for when I'm actually doing tutorials. I'm using what's it called? I'm using sand for the face because I'm not using the latest. Because since Xbox has 2 different Minecrafts going along with it, like Mojang created a whole separate game for 1.3 and above. In the latest updates aren't on the version of Minecraft I'm using to make my tutorials. I'm having to use sand. That's why I use concrete over anything else. It gives it a very smooth looking to it. And because now that so you see these little, because we just did the outline to that and did the red, we can do the top of his hat. And it seems like he has like little lines in the hat that he's wearing. And to me, it's also good to have it in the image I'm using. I have a reference image. These lines look to be about like a brown block. So I'm going to, where is it? Is this it? Or is this the concrete? It's the concrete. I think it's this block. I am not used to. Okay, this is the brown. I'm used to doing it on my monitor and not. I'm used to editing on my monitor and not from my Mac. So the block locations are kind of different. And I'm still trying to figure out where all blocks are. As you can see, I'm kind of like tracing over these hay bales here and some of the yellow terracotta to create these lines. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Like, some cases you can easily see where the lines are. And here, like, it's like this. I'm trying to explain what I mean, but it's really difficult to do so. What I mean is these hay blocks that I just went over, like here, in the like acacia blocks. Let's see. Is that all of them, or is there a few more? I think there's some over here. Here like this. I think that's all of them. I think that's all the lines in the top part of his hat. There are some in the lower bits of his hair. Like, not in his hair, in his hat. Like here, but we're not going to get to that because we haven't outlined his hair that separates his hair from his hat. So, looking on the image, it looks like it's a kind of like a almost hay color. So I'm going to use, what I'm going to use is, first, you can always, on Netlify, you have space around it, so you can kind of like figure out your palette. If I want to do that, it's really hard to see from a distance what I'm talking about. I feel like if that's what you're going for, I definitely want to use the terracotta for like the shading, or maybe like definitely use it in the main. I don't know what a good shade block to that would be though. Maybe if they do the terracotta, is that too dark? That would make it a bit too dark, so you can figure out a palette for doing this. Like over on the side, and then figure out what block what blocks work better with each other. I definitely prefer the concrete and terracotta because it's the lightest option. And even though, so this is where things on the original image, his hat, those colors don't exactly aren't in the game. So you kind of have to improvise the colors. I would like to say you're improvising colors, but at the same time, you're kind of not. Because you can get a lot of the shade. Like, a lot of the blocks. Like, Minecraft is very limited when it comes to like color variants. Like, if Minecraft had a color wheel, we would definitely be able to get a lot of different blocks. Like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm talking about. So in Minecraft, all the blocks over here, it goes up to 1.12. They are very, like, they don't really match a lot of the blocks you find outside of Minecraft. You kind of have to. Like, yes, they're good blocks, but they're not exactly. They don't match, especially when it comes to pixel arts. There's a lot of different, there's like not a lot of block variants. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these little diagonals here actually, because I didn't need them. Get rid of that one there. And now it looks a little better. Because the shading doesn't go all the way up. Is there shade? Is the rest of this going to be our lightest block now? Yeah, so what I'm talking about is, you see here I did 2 and then I did like a series of like a long block here, like a long line here. There you kind of, with your new block, you kind of want to see now that I've gotten rid of some of those blocks, instead of doing a 2 straight into a like whatever number that was, I used the terracotta, not my terracotta, the concrete, aka the lightest block I'm going to use for the main hat color. Why was I filling that in? I could have just done that, it would have saved me a lot of time. Like, yes, concrete is a bit bright for the reference image I'm using, that which is on my phone. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Let's do this. With my shade block, I'm gonna come down like this to make it look good. So it seems a little not more connected, I guess. I don't know what the I just basically added those two to extend that line a bit. What was I saying? Yes, the concrete does look a bit bright compared to the original image, but you gotta it's the closest block we're gonna get to that. So, which is why I'm using it. And also, because I did a little like palette thing over like next to it earlier in the stream, what was I doing? Oh yeah. I keep losing track of what I'm saying. Like, because I did the palette thing, trying to figure out what palette or what blocks I think will look best, I found that concrete and terracotta looked the best compared to any other thing that I tried. And because his hat is a yellow, it is basically yellow, I used yellow blocks, or blocks that go well with yellow terracotta, because I definitely wanted to use yellow terracotta, but what goes with yellow terracotta very well other than brown? Other than brown terracotta? And I found that anything, see there, where is it? I accidentally got rid of one of my lines for one of my blocks, or for that one of the lines. You can just add that back. So yeah, kind of have to use a bit of your imagination to figure out what blocks look best. Like, and I'm gonna go back to the whole why I don't use glazed terracotta instead of in my pixel arts. Well, one, even though glazed terracotta from a distance is pretty smooth, no one really uses blocks like that in pixel arts. Unless they're really trying to. Where's the yellow terracotta? Oh, there it is. I don't know if I can really show you the difference versus concrete and terracotta. They're pretty much the same. Like, I could have used glazed terracotta, but I just don't, because like, oh, I'm erasing that, not filling it in. Okay, there we go. And it is okay if you go over the outline a little bit. That does happen sometimes, and I think, yeah. Okay, no, we have a little bit of area up here too. Change. And now the top part is done, and let me just show you. You can see the difference in the parts that we changed, like the jacket and the top part of his hat. Do you notice how much nicer it looks because you got rid of all the weird blocks? And I'm going to change this one ever so slightly. Yeah, I like that a little better. You see the difference it makes when you smooth it out versus when you keep the mismatch? I like the mismatchy blocks where instead of like editing it down, you see the difference? You can tell the areas that haven't been changed yet are a lot more textured. I want to say textured, but like it doesn't look as nice. So we're gonna go back to our black so we can continue working on face. So now we're working on the face outline. I'm trying to, is his hair blacky? Yes it is, so I'm going to just fill it in with black concrete. It really doesn't matter, I guess. Does that still look nice is the real question. Let's see. That still look okay because there's not really a separation. Yeah, it still looks alright. So sometimes using blocks that are like this instead of like, I don't know, doing what I did for one of my past ones where I basically like makes so there is a bit of even a slight outline like this. Like you can't see it very well in the edit, but I did change it. Like if I zoom in, I don't know if this change will be any better. So I'm trying to see if you can see it on here. Yeah, you can kind of see it on the stream. So doing that, you could do that. In Minecraft, it looks a little better. So I think I'm gonna do this. Just so you guys can roughly see that there is an outline there and I didn't just fill that area in with black. And then just come up here. Then we can change this. Okay. Come up here. So you can see that I'm kind of just roughly following that. Like right there wasn't much outlining. Like, oh wait, okay, I was using the wrong block for that. I was using the concrete powder instead of the concrete. Even though you guys can't really see the difference very well from the distance I'm working at right now, I can see it much better on mine. Do this. Obviously you could, if you really wanted to. You could just, for areas that are black, you could just like leave it. Like you could, what I'm trying to say is you can just fill it in with black. Okay, guess it does. I was just making sure I wasn't going over something that wasn't meant to be outlined, but you are supposed to go up like that. Just two, and now I'm working on the ear. Which goes up to connect to the hair. This does connect to the hair, but we're currently working on the ear right now. So we're not working on the ear right now. Let's do this. And now I'm trying to, sorry if I went quiet there, I was trying to figure out, that is shading, isn't it? Now this has a bit of a strand here that goes a little bit longer. Okay, there we go. Now, we can kind of work on the ear. Now let's work on the ear. So we're going to get out our shading block. I like to use birch. And go over the areas that are shade. And obviously it can be a bit hard to see sometimes about what areas are shading versus what blocks are not. That's where it's nice to have it and I use sand for the main part of her. She's called Luffy. Her. That's not. It's guy last time much. Just with the sand, I'm getting rid of all these weird. Not weird. Why did I say weird? That's much better. I just edited a bit of the shading to make it look a bit nicer. Now with the sand, going back to the sand, well, I'll use the sand to change it to edit that area up there. And I'm replacing all that with sand. And now if I zoom out, you can see the ear over here looks a little bit nicer than the ear over here. Okay, it is. Wait, no, with the black, not with the sand. I am going to now work on this part of her, the like top part of his hair. And you want to avoid having too many diagonals in a row. Like, yeah, I would say like 20 at most. And sometimes you can't avoid diagonals, but I like to keep my stuff, my pixel arts, I prefer if there aren't a bunch of diagonals. And like I said, sometimes it's just not something you can avoid. But if you can avoid it. Did I go into the hat? Oh, I just went into the hat. Okay. That wasn't meant to. I was supposed to go down here, not up. So I'm just going to. Is this all? I think this is all shading for the most part. Yes, it is. So I'm going to go back to my yellow terracotta, which I used for the shading up there, and replace this black line here. And it's okay if you make a mistake. I make mistakes all the time, so it is alright if you do too. I make mistakes building my own stuff. And you'd think that because I made it, I would know where everything goes. Yeah, no. That is not right. Like there, I could have done diagonals, but I didn't want to go, like, make it so. There are some pixel arts I have made where there's so many diagonals they don't fit into one frame. And that's where making pixels are, especially with tutorials, because you have to actually count and make sure you get the right number. But if I'm not making the tutorial on a pixel art, I haven't done any tutorials except for my first one being Mikasa Ackerman from Attack on Titan. Now we've come all the way back around that we are now working on the ear. So let's bring this up so it connects to the hair. And we can work on the inner parts of his ear. This. And now we're gonna come up here. I'm trying to explain what it is I'm doing. Kind of. Is it? Making sure. Okay, same as the other side, we're gonna get our shading for where this on his. Do like this. I'm gonna shade in this area over here because it's darker. Just do this. Move it out. It's okay if you make mistakes. It's much easier to make a mistake and catch it early, and then make a mistake, and then make a mistake and not catch it until 30 minutes later. That happened with one of my Mikasa tutorial parts, where I was outlining her face, outlining her bangs. Where I made a mistake and I didn't catch it until like 30 minutes later, so I spent 30 minutes just getting rid of things that weren't meant to be there. And now the ears look way better than the face. Let's see. Did I make them easy? Let's see. Can I work on... what I'm doing here is I'm making sure I can move on to... I think I can't. To the bottom part of his hat. Okay. With using the same blocks, just these like little lines and hairs like he has on the top part of his hair. You see these lines he has in his hat on the top part? He has those in the bottom parts of his hair. I was just making sure you were able to go forward. And it seems like we are. So we can come in. And work on the lines he has in his hat. This. It's pretty easy when it comes to doing these lines because you can kind of see the outline. I'm going to add one more line like here. Oh, it looks a little better. Zoom out. There's some lines over here. I like the bottom of it. Still a bit more lines to do. I think these lines in here are approved. I don't know what these lines are. He just has them in his... I guess it's to symbolize that it's a hay hat or it's native. I have no idea why he has these like little lines in his hair. Come down here. Going to the other side now. I think it is supposed to be like a hay hat, which is probably why he has those like lines in his hair. That is why. Man. Let's do this. Hope I'm able to. Sorry if I'm going quiet. There's not really much to talk about here. I'm making sure did I get all the lines over here. I'm trying to come up here. We can work on the lines up here. These lines get a bit more curvier, like they curve around things. Like they curve around his hat. And it is okay if that happens. You can always go over it with the block you're using to replace them. Did I get all the lines in his hair? I think I have. It's harder to see if you have or haven't based upon just the lines. So now we can outline the sheet. this. And as you can see, I'm going over this like sponge outline, or anywhere there is sponge is so this outline, the shading in this part of his hat is a bit more. What's the word? It's a bit more all over the place, a bit more. I'm trying to say, I want to say jagged, but like that's not really the term used. That's not the right word. It does look a bit jagged in the original, but by jagged I mean it goes from small back to big numbers back to small numbers and back, and a bit zigzaggy-ish. There's big numbers back to these sort of small outlines. I'm trying to think of the word used to describe how this outline looks, but see, right now all I'm just doing is following this line so we can making a line, an outline with our block we use as the outline for the shading at the top of his hat, do the shading at the underneath of his hat. And I'm getting some of those like R, but I'm gonna call them like little backwards, those like square. I don't know what those things are called. I'm gonna call them R shapes or backwards R shapes. See here, the outline kind of goes away. I think we now what we're going to do is we are going to get rid of all these like glazed blocks. And with our pencil block, I'm going to replace these blocks that aren't our brown line blocks. And just like and after this, we would have, not after this, but after, oops. Is that the right block? Yes. You do want to, another thing to make pixel arts look good is whatever shading you use for the skin, no matter where in the body that stays your shading. If you have 3 different levels of shading on any character's skin, or obviously the darker it is, the darker block you should use for the shading. So like if it's I'm gonna, after I finish this, I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. I'm also gonna show you how I remove backgrounds, what site I use. Because removing backgrounds is going to make your life a lot easier, especially when it comes to doing these outlines, like the most basic, like edge outlines. But inner outlines becomes even a bit more difficult because you have to be extremely aware of what the outline is or where it is. And I said this before in previous, I've also said this before in previous streams. I've also said it before in this stream. Make sure you have a reference picture near you, because if you don't, that way you can make sure your schematic, was that supposed to, wait, was those supposed to be, oh, those were supposed to be brown outlines. Okay, I just got rid of some. So we're just going to do that. I kind of just added that one in because I got rid of the outline that I was supposed to follow. But at least we caught those ones. I also prefer doing I don't like doing like this because it makes the like that area look square. Like if I zoom out, hold on, I'm going to finish this little area around this. Like, I don't mind it on, like, the outer outlines, but, like, inner outlines, like that, like there, it looks a bit weird, so I tried to avoid stuff like that. Why did I erase that? And with my black, I'm kind of just turn it into a diagonal. It does not. I just don't like it when it does. I find it makes it just looks the Pixar look. I don't want to say square because every single block in Minecraft is a cube. So now, as we're getting close to the outline, you want to make sure you stay within the outline. So I'm using the paint tool to get rid of like large areas. But obviously, to get rid of like massive areas with this block. So I'm gonna come back down here before we go any more up. So we can get rid of the mismatchy blocks down here. So editing does take a bit of time. But it's worth it in the end. Especially if you don't like your pixel arts looking, especially if you don't like pixel arts having blocks in kind of randomly placed everywhere. If you like your pixel arts to be smooth and not super, or it doesn't look textured, you should definitely edit it. Even though it takes more it does take more time to build it. If you don't, it takes, like, yeah, you could go straight into it because editing takes a bunch of time that you could be spent building. You could also just hand make pixel arts if you are skilled enough, or like don't even edit it, just build it. You could have this like here, but in like the image, like you could have like Netlify or whatever it is you use to edit And instead of editing it down, you could just use that as a reference point and then just hand make it, and then there's no schematic required. So if you are skilled enough, you could hand make it. I'm gonna do that because it has that little line there. I've never hand made something before. I usually edit it down, or I just build it block for block as it does. Like my first Netlify pixel art was Jimin from BTS, and I did block for block. I didn't edit it down because it's a lot harder to edit real people than it is to it's a lot easier to edit anime characters and simplistic cartoon characters than it is to edit realistic, like, not realistic people, like actual people. I tried editing Chadwick Boseman as a little memorial for his passing. Chadwick Boseman was an awesome actor for Black Panther, but I tried editing him down like I would an anime character, and the part that I really struggled with was eyes and mouth, because those looked awkward. But I got everything else right. I got the basic face shape down. I got his clothes done. What was I saying? Yeah, editing real people and hyper realistic game characters is a lot harder, because not only do you have to make sure the eyes and the mouth look good, you also want to make sure you can still recognize the person when you're done editing. And with Chadwick Boseman, I struggled so much that I basically just gave up trying to edit it, and I just built it block for block. So that's why I do anime characters. And I did not finish the face outline. Now I have. I prefer doing anime characters because they're simple. They're simple and they're easy to edit. In fact, I'm pretty sure all my pixel arts I've done since I first started editing, it has been anime characters. Except for Bismuth. Bismuth is a cartoon character from Steven Universe. That's the only one that was not an anime character. Oh yeah, I also did Miles Morales for someone else. But from Miles from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Keep getting rid of the brown lines in his hat. I don't know why I keep doing that. I generally do not know why I keep doing that. What was I saying? I'm gonna do a little editing work on the face. that part of the hair looked a bit awkward. There we go. I think that looks nicer. Just carefully going around these lines. You also could just avoid doing outlines and you could do like a outlineless build where instead of using black for the outlines you use the whatever block. Like for the hair, since it's black, you could just simply make it all black. There might be a few outlines that you make unintentionally, like the outer outline here could just simply be not black. What I'm trying to say is that is a bit too close for my liking. Here. Was I that close before? Okay, no, that's a bit too far. We're gonna come here. What I'm trying to say is I'll show you what I was trying to explain in a second about going like, do you know how some like artists when they draw like I'm gonna say one Lavender Town, who is a YouTuber, a artist YouTuber. She sometimes draws things like she has done videos where she basically doesn't do the outlines and she just colors it in, like the face. Like it's, I don't know what that's called, what type of drawing that is when the outline isn't needed, or when the outline isn't there. It's like flat. It's like not that. I guess it's kind of flat. But I'll show you what I'm trying to explain in a second. I will definitely try to explain what I'm talking about. Or basically, and what I'm trying to say is, basically there's no black outlines. Like the hat would have a yellow outline. His jacket would have a red outline. His hair would have a black outline and colored in with black, like using the same block. What was I going to say? I am trying to figure out what else there is I could talk about when it comes to actually coloring things in. I mean, I'm just filling this in like this. Like, obviously, like what I'm trying to explain with the whole no outline thing is basically, let me come down here to where there is, most of it's already filled in. So instead of a black outline, you do something like this. Obviously, I'm going to replace those back with black. And there is no black outline around the entire thing. Just do that. avoid the whole black outline. And it goes for everywhere else on him. Like where there is lighter yellow, you use. Where there's yellow concrete, you use yellow concrete for the outline. You can't see it, but I air quoted outline because there's not really an outline. There is, but usually an outline consists of black or like it's a black line that goes around it. Where is it? There we go. I need to put that back. Okay, there we go. It's fixed. I think I am almost done with the shading in his hat. There isn't really any shading in his hair since it's purely just black, since it's mostly black, since it is black. But I'm almost done with up here, I think. So what I'm saying by a kind of jagged outlines, as you see, it's not completely a rounded outline. It's kind of like all over the place. Yeah, that's what I mean by jagged. Where it's not completely round or it's not completely like it goes in every which direction. There's a bit of zigzag kind of motion to it. Wait, there's a bit of blocks I forgot in the shaded area of the bottom of his hat. Does that look good? Is that meant to be like that? Yes, it is. Okay. This is why it's good to have a reference so you can easily see what's going on. So you can see if something looks weird to you through the editor. It is actually supposed to look like that and not supposed to look like something else. You're careful not to get rid of the black line. Obviously you can, if you go over something, you can fix it by going over it with black or going over it with whatever block you're using. Like if I accidentally went over this line with the yellow terracotta, I can just get the black, whatever block you use for the outline, and just go back over it. Let's do this. Let's see. We're almost done with the hat, and then we can move on to working on something else. Like maybe we work on his neck / collarbone area. And then we can work on his eyes and face. Like that, I just went over that black block with yellow, and I can just go back to the black and just go back over it. We are so close to being done with the yellow. Okay, there we go. That is his hat completely done. And now you can see what I mean by it. It has a bit of a jagged-ish outline. It's not round like there. This one is more smooth out. It gets a bit jagged at the end, but whatever. That's besides the point. Where here it's like it goes there, comes back, goes out, comes back in, goes up, comes down, it comes back up. Does that? It's not quite there, and it comes back in here. It's a sudden flat. Comes in, comes back out. Goes in a little bit, then goes out, and then goes back in. That's what I mean by jagged. Now we can. Oh, because we did his face, his like jawline, and like the bottom of his face, we can move on to down here. And I like to keep my pixel art relatively consistent with each other by like the block I used for the shading is different, is like this, not different, is like the same throughout every single pixel art that I do. Okay. Do this. What I'm saying is, whatever, I like to keep my pixel arts consistent with each other. For example, if I use birch for the shading and for the skin, I like use sand and birch, using birch as the shading, like I'm doing here. The block I'm currently using to fill this in is birch planks. You could see it in the ears I did before. I use birch for shading and sand for the main part. Like here, you see the areas that are darker are birch planks, and areas that is lighter is sand. I like to keep it throughout. And then even if in the conversion a lot of the area is white terracotta, I change all of the blocks to be sand because that's how I like my skin tone to be. So I try to keep all my pixel arts that I do to have sand and birch for the skin, and if it requires more I add oak, and even if it sometimes needs a fourth I'll add. And if it requires even like an even darker shading, I use spruce. But I don't think I've ever had to use all four in a pixel art before. I know I've used all those blocks in a pixel art before. I don't know if I've ever used them all in skin. The thing with sand is there's a lot of different like sandstone blocks. Like along with sand you get sandstone, which is like hardened sand basically. And you can easily miss those blocks when editing. It is alright if you miss some blocks when editing, especially if the block is fairly similar, you don't see it from a distance and you think you're done. That is fine. As long as you get rid of most of them, you are fine. Like, let's say I forgot like these blocks over here, which I'm not going to because I recognize them. But let's say I had, it's not the end of the world. really is not the end of the world because you know it's supposed to be sand or whatever it is you're using. Whereas if I use like, even like, because Luffy converted to be mostly sand blocks for the skin before I'm editing, or sand related blocks like the sandstone, they're much easier to spot when the original conversion is white terracotta instead of sand. I just prefer using sand for skin because to me I find it to be the block closest to actual skin color or skin tone. Of course, if you're doing a black character when you're editing, you'd want to use blocks that are darker than sand because sand gives off the vibe of like a white character because you don't want to make a dark skinned character have a light palette in Minecraft. That just wouldn't make sense. Now, the last thing we really have to do is hair and face. So we are going to go back to our black. And we're going to find an area in the hair that still needs to be edited. And we're going to basically edit it. Why do I always get so close? I hate being this close when I'm working on pixel arts. I feel like this is too zoomed in, but it's fine. This is how I am when I'm doing tutorials. I can go even more zoomed in, but I'm not going to. And this is a good area to start work on like his eyebrow, which we're going to come back to later, but we could start it there. What was this? Let's do this. And you might notice that his hair is kind of split up at like the bangs. Like there, that is shading basically. So like, I want to say they're split up, like it just means like you can't see all of his bangs or all of his hair with the hat on. Like some of them could be shorter, or this is just how his hair is in general. Just go all the way up, and it's okay if that happens. You can just go back over it with whatever block you're going to use for that section later. In my case, I think it's going to be a shading block, so birch. Obviously, you can use whatever block you think looks best. Whatever block it is you use for the outline, make sure it's that blocked out your entire outline. That way you can just I want to say keep track of it easier, but that way it just stays consistent. Let's see. We can work on this part of his hair. obviously if you're on PC, you can see like when you're actually building. On PC, you can get coordinates up. I don't know how to do that from the console. So you can't see it very well, but I just changed those blocks that were right here and here with a slightly lighter black block. And that, I believe, finishes the hair outline and also finishes the face outline. Like right now I'm just filling this, and I know it's pretty hard to see what I'm doing through Twitch. But all I'm doing here is I am just changing all these mismatchy blocks. You can kind of see what I'm doing, but you can't really see that there's a difference in the black outline and the new block I'm using. So yeah, that is the downside of using a black block to fill in a different, like, yes, I am using it and I can see it much better, but you guys, it's pretty hard to see exactly what it is I'm changing. You guys can see the blocks that I'm changing, but you guys can't really see the difference unless I get super close. In Minecraft, it's a different story. A much different story. Because you can actually see the difference in black concrete and concrete powder. Which is why I use black concrete over wool to do this. But because I'm deciding to use black concrete powder inside black concrete, and because a lot of the blocks are pretty dark in Twitch, it looks like I'm not doing anything when I go over black with black. But you guys saw, if I zoom in close enough, when I was doing like the bottom of his hair when we were working on his jacket and starting with the face, you guys can see that there are two different blocks going on in the hair. I think we got, but zoom out far enough and it's really hard to see. We got one hair strand done. Now we can move on to the next one. I call them strands. I guess they are strands. Like, got one piece of the bangs done. You do sometimes get to see Luffy without his hat on, because he wears it like every episode. I'm gonna finish this eyebrow off, because I finished off the other one, so I thought I might as well finish this one off as well. I'm trying to, what do people talk about during streams? Let's see. I'm trying to... I know it looks like I'm not doing much to change this, especially when I'm going over dark areas with my concrete powder. But I am doing stuff. Like, you can kind of see certain blocks that are getting changed, but no, I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to miss blocks. But that might happen considering black on black. So, kind of have to get super close to my laptop to really see if some blocks are still there. I guess if you get most of them, it's fine, like I said before. As long as you get most of it, you relatively know that's supposed to be X block. But we have one more area with hair to do, and then we can move on to face and eyes and shading. Sorry if I've gone a bit quiet through this stream, I really don't know what to talk about because I kind of explained editing. Already, like what you do to do so. Like you kind of go over your outline, go over any outlines, the outer, like the edge outline, the most like outer, like the main outline, then you go in to do inner outline, which inner outline's a lot harder to do, and then you kind of smooth out unnecessary blocks on the inside once you got all the outlines done. Or, so order in how I do things. I like to do as you saw at the beginning, I like to do like the most basic edge outline, like the outline that goes around everything, that marks the basics of everything. Why did I zoom out so far? I guess it was to show you what I was talking about. And then I like to do inner outlines, like I did jacket outlines first. And then I moved on to the hat, and then hair. And obviously, depending on pixel art, I do kind of change up the order I do things in. I do change up order of doing stuff, but I do always start off with the main outline first, and then I move on to main outline, like the most outer outline, and then I move on to inner detail. Sometimes I always start with like the clothes first, and then I move on to... Also, I'm going to come back to our black concrete here, even though it probably looks like nothing's changed at all. But all that's really left to do now is simply eyes, nose, mouth, and that little thing he has under this eye. I don't know the scar under his eye. And now right now we're working on the smile. There. I did not mean to thicken up the eye like that. So I'm just going to go back over it with sand, and it's been fixed. In every image or every character you edit, it's going to be different. It's going to be different for every person who edits. I cannot tell you how to edit, like exactly, because you're going to find if you do it enough, you have your own style to editing. You want to make it your own. So, while I can show you how I do it, you may have a different way of doing something. You may find you want to do no outlines at all and just go in with a flat. Like make it a. You could do that. I personally wouldn't do that, but that's me. You may also find that you want to do the inner outlines and then do the outer outline last. So you're gonna have, depending on the person, depending on you, you're gonna find that you are gonna have a different style than someone else. And that is fine because it is your style. I have a bunch of friends on Discord who make their own stuff, and we have slightly different ways of doing things. So, I like to do my pixel arts this way, the way I've been showing you. You may decide you like it, you prefer to do it like something else. Whatever your style is, I'm telling you like how to, like, I don't want to say you're tracing over the outlines that are already there with black and make it smoother. You're kind of like, you are tracing over, but like, I try to explain it to that where you trace over the outer outline with black and then you do inner outlines, and the person I was explaining it to was very confused. So I don't want to say you're so I'm trying to explain it the best I can without making it sound confusing. If anything is confusing though, you could always let me know, and I'll try to explain it better in another tutorial. And now those are the eyes. The eyes look a little weird. But it's whatever. Okay. And I think all we got left to do now is shade in areas next to some of his bangs, and areas that need to be shaded. And then we can move on. And we can just not move on, but we can. I'll show you how I save. I'll show you how to get rid of remove the background, all that stuff. This is pretty self-explanatory. Everywhere that is these birch logs. Change it. And sometimes I like to do this, that way I can easily see exactly what it is I've done. Like, just so if I zoom out, does that look okay? That looks fine. Now I'm going to come down here. Let's see. I'm trying to... Sorry if I went quiet there. I'm going really quiet in this stream. I don't know why. Sorry. But I'm kind of just doing the shading, which is self-explanatory, kind of. I am just, what am I doing? You see how I made a outline with birch here and I'm smoothing out everything inside that line? That's kind of what you're doing. Here, I'm noticing that this only is one outline, so I'm going to get rid of you, and I'm going to get rid of that. Now it looks a little better on how it's supposed to look like. So I'm making an outline with my shading block of choice. In this case it's birch. And now everywhere inside that line, I smooth out with birch. And once you get all the shading done, the rest is pretty easy. You just get out your main block for your skin tone or whatever it is you're working on. So yeah, as you can see here, I am now smoothing out everything out, like around the shading with sand. Like this. You also don't want to get rid of outlines like that. But I was just doing that for the second. I have not quite finished the outline yet, the shading yet. Yes, and now we can come in and smooth this out, I guess. Let's just do this. Now getting to the point where I have no idea what to talk about, because at this point it's just pretty easy that I'm just getting rid of all of these mismatch blocks with sand. So there's not really much to explain within this, just make sure you get every single block. I'm sure there's a faster way to do it. It's mess fill in. Let's go. With the paint tool. Like this. This will make it go by so much faster if you use the paint tool, because it fills in large areas with the block you have selected down here. Becomes really helpful later. There's no shading up there. Underneath that hair piece there. Trying to make sure I get every large-ish area gotten rid of. So I can start working on smaller. I think I can start going in with the pencil tool now. Yes. Yes. Do not get rid of the eyebrow or any of the black lines. I tend to always go over fix things in case you if you get rid of like a block. Let's do that. Around the nose, the eye. Really do not know what I need to talk about here. Done everything if you're following along and trying to follow yourself. You are basically got everything done. And you're just filling in the last area with whatever block you're using. So there's not really much to talk about. Come up here, make sure. the eyebrow because I forgot this little piece here. Just make that like that instead of making that a single block. Just by doing that, I already like that section a bit more. Let's do this. So at this point, I'm gonna keep doing that. Hopefully his smile looks like a smile, not like some creepy smile. Because I don't want a creepy smile unless I'm making a creepy character that has that kind of smile, but I think it should be fine. Should be fine. Should be fine. If it's not, I can always change it later. And fix it. Oh, did I actually place blue there instead of black? Apparently I did. Get rid of all these blobs. Nose. Ooh. Yeah, as I was saying at the very beginning, One Piece is a pretty long show. Like, it has like 800, a bit over 800 episodes by now, maybe 900 at this point. Basically, it's the longest anime to ever exist in the world right now. And I'm on like episode 4. 7 maybe. I have no idea. So, I still have a long ways to go. And One Piece doesn't really do seasons, they more do arc. Which is technically seasons, but at the same time, not really. Not really. It's not. The arcs aren't really seasons. Like, Naruto has a bunch of arcs, but they go through multiple seasons. But, that's besides the point. I really do have to catch up on a bunch of anime. Because I am behind on so many. I have a little bit more sand areas, or areas that need to be filled in with sand. Like this. Don't leave any blocks out. Let's see. I'm trying to. Let's do this. Oh, trying. think that's everything now. Yep, there we go. That is Luffy. No, wait, no, we have a bit of the ear that we didn't edit. I was wondering why that looked a bit pink. So the reason I use sand for the skin instead of the white terracotta, because I find white terracotta a bit too pinkish. A bit too pinky for a skin tone. Like, here, I do not like how this, how that looks right there. So I'm going to come back in and just get rid of that entire line there. And already I like how it looks. And now I believe we can move on to the last things I want to talk about. So how to remove backgrounds is how I remove backgrounds like I did for Luffy is I go to a site called remove.bg/upload. And it takes you to, hold on a second, this page. So you're going to go onto the upload image, and obviously you can't see. And it kind of just makes it go gray. But I'm going to choose the Luffy image. And to get rid of the background for you. And now, well, actually, it doesn't make any sense. I can't do Luffy because the background's already removed. So I'm going to go to the same place again. Upload image. And I'm going to go to trying to find one that has not already been. Here, you briefly saw a glimpse of the background changing. And now, there's no background, and you can easily see the outline. And there was one thing I wanted to talk about. What was the other thing I wanted to talk about? There's one other thing. Oh yeah, how to save. So I'm going to close that remove.bg site. So how to save is you see all these buttons at the top. The open, save, replace, settings, and all those. You want to go to save, and then you just want to hit save as. You could also change what this is called. Like I could just simply call it One Piece. It's not One Piece, get rid of the One Piece and just call it Luffy. Like this. But I'm going to put it back. And then just hit save as. And it downloads to your computer. And now it's at the bottom of your screen. And that is basically it. I hope you enjoyed this. I have been my name is Pixel, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday at probably noonish for part 1 of the tutorial. See you guys then.